Good Friday morning, guys. I'm Jerry Miller, and thank you kindly for joining us on Real Talk with Keith Smith. It's a pleasure to connect with you guys through the I Love CVille Network on a show presented by Yes Realty Partners. Keith and Yonna Smith have a fantastic brokerage. They've been in real estate since 1987. Goodness gracious. They are not old. They are experienced, savvy, and sophisticated, like fine wines, ladies and gentlemen. In business for 39 years, soon to be 40. And how about that? Let's celebrate them. Their 40-year anniversary they are celebrating right now. They are watching us in the Caribbean. 40 years with Keith. That's absolutely amazing. Keith, I love you, buddy. You have an umbrella drink right now in your hands, and you have suntan. I miss you, my friend, and congratulations to you and your lovely lady for 40 years of marriage. What a thing to champion. Judah Wickhauer behind the camera, if we can go to the studio camera, and welcome household names. I mean, household names here. We have Ned Gallaway, 3-term supervisor, Albemarle County, Rio District. He's an awesome dude. Mike Pruitt, 1st-term supervisor, awesome dude, Scottsville District, Albemarle County. Jesse Rutherford, you can't go anywhere in Nelson County without folks knowing Jesse Rutherford here.
In all contexts.
3-term, I didn't say that, you said 3-term supervisor, Nelson County, also a fantastic landlord, Jesse Rutherford. Fantastic landlord.
Oh, landlord.
I'll pass the baton to Ned Gallaway. How's that?
Well, good morning. Great to be here. I hope Keith and Yonna are having a great time. Congrats to them. And yeah, I thought we'd have a little fun today, talk some rural land use and some rents and some affordable housing and see what's going on in our respective areas. Mike and Jesse share kind of a border together down there, so I know sometimes a lot of times rural issues don't necessarily get talked about as much. It seems like when I'm on the show, just by nature of my district tends to be more urban than some of the others. But yeah, I think we'll have a good time today and just chat about some issues that are going on. So thank you, gentlemen, for coming on today. Have a little fun.
Mike Pruitt was just in here recently. So was Jesse Rutherford. So was Ned Gallaway. So these are all stars and not their first rodeo. Open-ended. Supervisor Pruitt with you. All of us love words and we love to talk. We love microphones and the camera. I think that is safe to say here. Supervisor Pruitt, I know you certainly do. The show is yours on any topic you want to pontificate about, and then we'll have some fun.
Sure. So I am also excited to talk about rural land use because I think it is a thing where I think we have a lot of different. Any given person is going to have a different core presupposition about it, and they are not aligned, but we don't talk about how they're not aligned. So I think like the very simple first thing is something's designated in Albemarle County as rural area, right? What is that land for? What is the main thing it's for? Is it for farming? Sure. Is it for residential use? Is it for
Yeah, I'd love to expand on that.
Please.
So in the Nelson County context, one of the worst lines, and I love asking the question on it, is what is rural character? Everyone has a different definition of what that means. I usually say we can at least land on foliage. Okay, we believe trees and grass in a field. That's nice, right? And generally, I say, however, you have the right to, in most of our zonings, 95% is agricultural. So you have the right to till up the dirt, to be able to harvest a crop from it, to clear cut your trees, as you should. And I would also look at that same person and say, but is that contradictory to your definition of rural character? As all of a sudden we're now destroying the ecological system and then doing it again. I said, I believe we're going to trickle into property rights here soon. But in the Nelson County context, history is important and historical precedent. I mean, we were a extraction-based economy. We had we were mining towns. We have company towns. So we'll usually have, and where the battle comes down to is the pre-existing, maybe agricultural uses or land use expectations that's been going on for a long time, and then you have the new person who moves in, very typical, from out of state, out of town, and says we need to preserve rural character and keep Nelson County like it used to be. And I then have to ask the great question, which decade? Because Nelson County is at a third of its population.
There we go.
From its peak. Oh, sorry, you probably couldn't hear me. That's okay. And what that had led is you had these company towns, you had these mining facilities, you had all sorts of. Nelson County was a place to actually come and start a business, and big business. Then, unfortunately, as time progressed, World War II happened. You had a mass exodus of people who went and left for the urbanization. And then you had kind of this rebound. A lot of folks did come back. And then Nelson County had the unfortunate Camille, which was a massive change. Property got very affordable. Then you had Wintergreen come to be. And so when you think about rural character, you usually don't think about like a 3,000 home ski resort coming in, right? Even though I would look at you and say that's a critical part of our economy, and it's led us into the tourism industry. So it is a battle, and I often caution constituents when someone's saying we need to preserve rural character, they need to ask what that means, because it might just so happen to mean that your occupation of being a logger shouldn't exist. It might just happen to mean that you can't utilize fertilizers to get your crops to a good, sustainable place in terms of nutrition for the soil. So it's a battle, and it's, and I will say this, it often is especially becomes even more bigger battle as you get to see rural character weaponization turns into producing scarcity, which then pushes lower income demographics out of our communities.
You know what? That's a microcosm of what might be happening in Ned Gallaway's district right now. And it's not to that extent, but it's a variation of it outside the Carsbrook neighborhood.
Well, in the Carsbrook neighborhood's still in the development area.
Sure.
But it's rural, it's zoned, with the application that's coming through right now is zoned R1, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Its land use designation is not R1. The deed restriction that's in place keeps it at R1.
Which is
So
single
it's-
family detached home.
Yeah, and and most of the Carsbrook, Still Meadow, Old Brook, Westmoreland, Huntington, Northfield, that's a mix of R2, R4 zoning, depending on where you're at. But you're right, like Jesse, you just all had that decision on the conference center
Exactly.
and the Monroe Institute.
Right.
So it's like that's been there for a long time.
Long time. It predates a couple.
But you had folks hitting you with.
We did.
You're changing the character. You're turning us into Fairfax, which maybe makes you Lord Fairfax.
Isn't that
I don't
crazy?
know.
I think the motto of "Don't Fairfax my county" follows all counties south of Fairfax, all the way to the North Carolina border. Whenever anything happens, but as it relates to the Monroe Institute, that predates a lot of history. I mean, I think it goes back to the 70s. So definitely our previous comp plan, and it may have been in there previous to the last comp plan. So it might even predate all of the comp plans.
So to catch people up, you just approved, right?
Correct.
3-2,
It
a
was-
conference center.
Yes, it's really just a larger facility than what they have. Where they invite people from around the world, around the country, to come and experience the synchronization of the hemispheres of the mind through sounds and music, I think.
Astral projection.
Is that what it is?
I think they do some remote viewing. And
Yeah, the
astral
remote.
projection.
Yeah, and there's some interesting theories out there, but they built a whole community around them. The neighborhood is centered around the Monroe Institute, and it has been a piece of that area for decades and decades and decades.
Now the square footage of that is going to be.
Oh yeah, it's like I think it was like over 40,000 square feet, something of that nature.
Because if you're in Central Virginia looking for a conference center
Sure.
of that size,
Yeah.
I'm not sure that one exists.
I don't think one exists, and I think it
We
might.
don't have one?
I mean, we usually, when you have conferences in town, you'd have the Omni, you have
Omni,
the Doubletree.
Omni, Doubletree, you got
Boar's
the
Head.
Code Building, you got Boar's Head, and now there's two on Ivy Road.
But I don't think they're of that size.
Right, and I don't think it's not really everyone's thinking of it as a conference center in the sense that you're going to have all of these big corporate retreats there. That's not necessarily the case. These are individuals who are soliciting to have
Yeah, they're doing their
this
programming.
rehabilitative, whatever that program is. So it's not in that sense where you're going to have that. You're going to have the massive cocktail parties and all that. So it's a lot more complementary to what it is the same thing that they've essentially been doing, just on a bigger scale.
Yeah, they've outgrown their space.
Yeah, and so that was a very big discussion. I mean, every time we have in Nelson County, it's really hard to have a vote on a special use permit and it not be a part of A1, because 95% of our zoning, if not more than 95%, is zoned agriculture. And I have very serious problems with everything being zoned agriculture, because You're telling me that the tip top of a mountaintop of all of Nelson County is agriculture? No, you're not doing anything with that tree line that's not going to grow past where it's at. You're not growing crops on top of the mountain. So I am, though we're in the middle of our rezoning, I do believe that to utilize a additional zoning code of just rural zoning, because what happens is when you have A1 is you also have a lot of opportunity for agritourism, which is great. Nelson County is built on that. But it also does mean that you're going to get a farm brewery at any given second right beside you. It also gives you by right usage of farm wineries, and because that's not a Nelson County thing, that's a state statute piece. Again, it's been phenomenal for Nelson, the history 151 corridor. It has saved Nelson County's economy. But it does present the question of, well, maybe we should be more thoughtful with our zoning. Keep in mind, Nelson County still has boarding houses and taverns still in the zoning code. So your chances of being able to use that opportunity are running out here soon. So
Well, in Albemarle, we have 95%. It's all just RA. It's all rural area. But yeah, Mike's point earlier about if you asked the 6 Albemarle County
Right.
supervisors what rural area means relative to what we have in place.
Right.
You get 6 different answers.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of to your point about, Jesse, about people changing how they think
Yes.
over time about what this means. We definitely have seen just in a few decades this happen in Albemarle County, right? Like our hard rural-urban split has a very specific policy reason behind it.
Yeah.
It's to prevent over-nutrification of our water system. That is the reason. We have a very clear legislative history. We were developing too fast, and there was runoff into the watershed.
Oh, I see.
That is why it happened. That is, I don't think I'm speaking out of turn to say that's the sole reason it happened. It was a specific reaction to something. The degree, though, to which this has acquired so much extra meaning, right? Oh, it's a decision about rural preservation. It's a decision about scenic preservation. It's a decision about the role of farming in our economy. It's an intentional choice to maintain our ecological footprint. You will have people dead serious say that is why it happened. And it's fine to say that those are things it's accomplishing and that those are things that are important. But it's fascinating that you have such a key, like axiomatic, the most essential thing about Albemarle County government, and we don't agree why the hell we do it.
I believe that. Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
the fight starts when you're like, we want to move a pipe from that side to that side.
Yeah.
Forget stuff that's even out there,
Yeah.
but all the stuff even on the edge. We just
Right.
had, we just did it, the church this past week. We allowed, it's right across from Baker Butler. It's limited use, so it's specific. So like there's a home there, they want to put a church on the property, which they're allowed to do by right in the rural zoning.
Sure.
But they asked to connect to the sewer and water, but just for the church, not for the house.
Right.
So the limited usage of it's going to allow that, and it was
and people were upset.
I think it was
with
a
that.
4-3-1 vote.
dissent.
Oh my
Because
God.
Fred wasn't there.
But there were 2 people not there, and I would have been curious. Probably it would have ended up 6-2 if everybody was there, if I had to guess.
Comments coming in. We're going to get to the comments. Viewers and listeners, you can shape the discussion by asking comments. That's where the Pandora's box opens.
That's right. That's where it gets
For
exciting.
the supervisors. I have some questions first
I'm sure
for the
I've
panel.
said something that irritated Lonnie.
You guys are great. You guys each should have your own show. I sincerely mean that. I bet you guys could each turn a show into a profit center for yourselves. Yes, that's me selling right here. Just doing that right there. I'll throw this to you here. I believe you're all, and help me understand, is it the Thomas Jefferson District Planning Commission?
Thomas Jefferson Planning District. Commission.
Planning District, okay.
Yeah,
The district
In-
commission, Thomas, planning, Jefferson.
So they are all together sharing essentially like the playbook of their county.
Sure.
Or governance. Why don't I call it that? Homelessness and how it came up in some of these meetings. Because that's an issue that the community is grappling with. Maybe not so much Nelson County yet.
Yeah.
Certainly Charlottesville City. Albemarle County is certainly grappling with that.
Well, I think it's interesting and it's great to use the TJPDC as kind of the starting point for the conversation because, I mean, I think it's fair to say, overly fair to say, that Charlottesville's taken it on the chin to deal with the houseless issue because of a lot of it is centered in the urban area. But when you look at the 6 jurisdictions only Charlottesville is the one that's urban, and how homelessness presents, depending on where you're at, is very different. So the urban area, the way that we're seeing it, I think everybody participates in. In Albemarle County, from the urban ring, it's different than what you're seeing in downtown Charlottesville.
Sure.
And it's always been there. It's not brand new.
Right.
It's something that maybe is more visible now, because maybe some of the places where small single or dual tents that maybe could get set up,
Sure.
the trees are gone, and now there's apartment buildings
Right.
there. When you push out into the rural area of Albemarle County, now homelessness presents in a way that's more probably visible in a way that it is in Nelson and Louisa. But I know when I drive down into Nelson County, I'll never forget it, going down, I think it was after the roundabout, and it was just a mile or two after I headed south, down to
Sure.
down to
151.
Wintergreen area. There was a shopping cart
Yeah.
out on the road, and then when I was like, well, that's an interesting place for a shopping cart.
Right.
But then you could see the little footpath going back up and in there, and that's that's the telltale sign that you
Well-
have somebody that's living there that doesn't have a home.
I think in a Nelson County sense, rural homelessness kind of presents itself in a couple different ways, and we could argue about what a home is, right? One, the typical institutions would say, living in someone else's house on the couch presents itself as some level of homeless, right? Okay.
Especially for school children.
Right.
Children.
So then you get to the next level, and I would say this is the most common, but because of how it's done, we don't often associate it. It's utilizing land that doesn't have sanitary facilities with an RV or a camp. Or a pop-up tent. That is probably, though it may not necessarily look as though it is a homeless thing, but they have been able to procure something. It's basically, I don't know, maybe a higher-end tent situation. But in our context, usually they can drive. They may or may not have access to a piece of land, or they're just squatting on a piece of land with an RV because they know the family's not around and nobody's going to say anything. So I would say that's probably the most common instance in Nelson.
Yeah.
So,
And probably true of Louisa and Fluvanna.
yeah, I would say in most rural contexts.
Because
Yeah.
it's happening in the rural area of Albemarle in that manner.
Right.
How does Albemarle County, throw it to you, and then how does Albemarle County and your board, frankly, your district's right there, the Rio district. Jack Jewett district is right there. And heck, Scottsville district does too, because the area next to the Wegmans Fifth Street Station Shopping Center. Are you guys monitoring what's happening in Charlottesville? And are you then forecasting how it could impact Albemarle County? And then what's the joint venture effort with the city, with what it's doing right now? Because I'll tell you what, the council, city council, and Sam Sanders are in a, world of whatever word we want to use right now with this, not issue. Do I call it issue? Is it an issue? Is this?
I don't know what else it is if it's not an issue.
Issue?
Yeah.
Right?
I don't want to speak for the whole board, but I'm going to do it anyway. I don't think anyone on our board doesn't think of homelessness as a regional issue.
Right.
Correct me if you think that's wrong.
You think they do see it as a
They,
region?
yeah.
Wouldn't
I
disagree
think
with
our
that.
board is in lockstep on thinking that homelessness is a regional issue. And the way that is a regional issue, you can argue about it, right? Like a not insignificant part of the homeless population that currently lives in Charlottesville came from Albemarle. And there's our own indigenous homeless populations, people who are still in Albemarle County who are homeless. And also just anytime you have borders touching, right? Like we talked about this right before the mics went on. Holiday Drive literally touches Albemarle County, the proposed shelter that the city is building. The Pantops encampment, the Freebridge encampment literally touches my district. It's not in my district, but it touches my district because it's right on the other side of the river. You can't pretend those aren't regional issues. That affects residents in the Pantops community, and it affects, I have mentioned this before. I have homeless people from my community who have moved into that encampment because it is seen as the place where they're more likely to have access to services and community right now. So it's definitely a regional issue, and I think we share a certain responsibility with the city to do something about it. I think there's always going to be some breakdown of what that looks like and what I think there's currently a bit of a renewed position among certain people who are involved in county politics of what is our fair share of this cost burden. That's a thing that I'm hearing more lately.
Yeah.
Which is a fairly asked question, but I think we're going to keep hearing that. But the question is going to be, what is the right amount, not should we pay it all? Should we support it all on this problem?
Well, he broke some news, I think it was news to the entire community when you were on the show, when you said Albemarle County and Jeff Richardson found out about the Holiday Drive purchase from the news.
I found out about it from the news.
And you said Jeff Richardson from the news. And we broke that news on this show, on the I Love CVille show. We were the first to report the Holiday Drive purchase because we're 1 degree away from the man who brokered the deal on behalf of the city. How do you look at this? Because your district is right there.
It's hard because we're so locked into, each of us, most of the time things come before us that is very specific to a jurisdiction and very specific to the decision that's in front of you. So like a rezoning, you're going to put it in there and you're going to say, well, all right, if I'm going to rezone something in the Rio district, I would hope that the other supervisors would take my opinion, to count because I'm the lead rep for that particular area. But if Jesse Rutherford starts knocking on my door about a redevelopment or a rezoning on Rio 29, I might be looking at Jesse and go, what are you doing, Jesse? I don't come down there and tell you what you should be doing with your, with the Monroe Institute type of piece.
Sure.
But
I was to say, Mike does.
you can share your opinions on that, but in some ways, I'm like, you got elected for that, and that's your citizens that have to deal with that. Homelessness is not a jurisdictional thing in terms of solving the problem.
Right.
In a lot of ways, that affordable housing is the same thing.
Right.
If we don't put a system in place and all take ownership of the fact that, the city of Charlottesville is not going to build its own system from homelessness services to permanent supportive housing measures to affordable housing, then to getting you stood up where you don't need subsidy to live, right? Same for Albemarle. If we all repeated those systems within our jurisdictions, it would be, first off, we'd never get it done because it would take forever. Right. But if you could have like Premier Circle, a permanent supportive housing piece that is a step on the ladder of trying to get somebody back in viably living on their own and be able to afford it with the wage and all of that. If the low barrier shelter can get propped up in Charlottesville, we have a permanent supportive housing piece in Albemarle, right? Or several in the region. And then we all put our efforts together regionally to try to bring rents down for people that what they can get out of the permanent supportive housing piece. That's going to take regional pieces of the puzzle to make happen. And I don't see how any jurisdiction can do that on themselves without being a place with exorbitant or I shouldn't say unlimited funds, but when you look at Northern Virginia, like Montgomery County in Maryland or Fairfax, they have to deal with that system in and of their own jurisdictional boundary. Sure. And they have the resources to be able to pull that off. But we don't, individually, Albemarle doesn't have the resources to put that whole system in place. So if we don't tackle it and think of it regionally, then we're going to not ever put a system in place that's going to help try to solve the problem.
I just want to add one thing here because I'm conscious of the way I'm sounding, the way we're all sounding. It can be really easy, I think, when we're talking about homelessness to make it seem like I hate listening to documentaries because I feel like they're always so desolate.
Yeah,
right?
You're saying
like
pieces on a chessboard. That's what you're saying.
Well, I'm worried that we're talking about this, and it's so easy to talk about homelessness in a way that seems desolate. Yeah. It's like a battle of good versus evil in which, it's intractable and forever. I think that's the wrong. Homelessness is a distinct and solvable problem. It is a thing that we can, and I think in my lifetime, will fix in this region. I think it is a countable number of people who are homeless in this community. It's about 250 at a given point in time. It floats over the course of the year. You have about 700 people experience homelessness.
Yeah, Brock says it's over 700 now.
700 over the course of the year. Any given instant time, about 250. Okay. And that probably isn't capturing this genre of people because they're hard to get in the point in time count. But 250 at any given point in time is a housable amount of people. The problem is we have 50 beds. Yeah. 50 beds in a high barrier shelter, meaning if I'm currently on drugs, I can't use it. Sure. We have an additional 50 in the winter through Fincham, low barrier. That means there's a gap of about 150 to 200 beds, some of which have to be low barrier. And you can actually seriously get toward eliminating homelessness. And I think we need to say that as frequently as possible, because I think any kind of political effort, right? Political means it needs support from the community. You always need that image of hope and what we're striving toward. And I think there's a very tangible, concrete, real hope of what we can strive toward. We can eliminate homelessness in a community of this size. It is doable. And I just wanted to emphasize that, because what we're doing is we're getting damn close over with Holiday Drive, with the House of Hope expansion of Salvation Army. We're getting damn close to that 250 that it's going to take to be close to eliminating homelessness, to effectively eliminating homelessness.
So how about we make a little news here? Can we make a little news here? Let me ask you this question. If it's 20 to 25 million to bring Holiday Drive to market, and Holiday Drive is literally on the city Albemarle County line, it's like there was a homeless shelter purchased that is almost in Albemarle County. What is Albemarle County's allocation responsibility to 20 to 25 million dollars?
The fundamental.
That was I'm not going to answer that.
Well, I'll
Jerry,
tell you,
anyways.
I'll first set up before I give you my thought or my own kind of view on it, because it's to say I haven't been thinking about it or pondering it would be lying, right?
Sure.
So it's something that we have to, and I was at one of the first meetings where the groups did the presentation to the city to try to start getting my head wrapped around it. But the fundamental issue in Albemarle, and this is going to sound really not very humanizing to the issue, but there is a fundamental angst amongst county residents, some more so than others. Some don't care, some care a lot, about the amount of money that gets shared with the city of Charlottesville through revenue sharing.
Mike Pruitt has that worry.
And so when you start talking about, all right, we're going to put something new in place and it's going to cost additional monies, there are some folks go, but you're already getting. And why aren't you using that for that purpose? And it's been a tension for the 8 years I've been on the board. It's been tension between us and the city council in past meetings, even just asking where does the money go? And I'm not trying to renew or relive that debate. I'm just saying that is an underlying tension that immediately when you talk money for any reason is an element that we have to contend with our constituents, depending on where they're at. Now, that being said, I can't sit here and say that it's a regional solution to solve the bigger problem, because I agree with Mike. It is a solvable problem. Right. Are you going to get 0% homelessness? I think you could on points and count sometimes. I don't know that everybody's always, you're going to solve it outright, but you're definitely going to bring the number down. And if we don't figure out how to do it and what each of our counties' role in it is, both through things that we can implement, like a premier circle and doing all the rezoning and things you need, but also then a funding commitment, then it's just not going to happen. And it doesn't stop with Albemarle. I mean, I'm not going to put, Jesse can handle being put on the spot, but the other counties in the TJPDC region, if they don't participate or help with this issue in some way, then it just means that the problem it'll take longer to solve the ultimate problem.
And I think you have to, I think it's very important that we address it to a degree, but if you start I'll give you a good story. So years ago when I was at Lynchburg College, they have a homeless population there as well, to a varying degree. It's a bigger city, so they spread out a whole lot more. And I remember I was actually getting on the train because I was going to D.C., and there was a homeless guy, and he asked me for like $20, and I said, "Oh, okay." He's like, "I'm going to Charlottesville. I need $20 to get on the train to go to Charlottesville." And I said, "Okay, you don't like Lynchburg?" And he's like, "Nah, honestly, they got better services for me in Charlottesville." And so my point was like, "Okay, I get that. Maybe whatever is it a mental health thing, whatever it may be." I think that as you start solving it, is you also will then also become some level of an attractant of it more. And that's not to say you don't address it, but that regional issue becomes even more macro. Because the next thing you know, you're seeing others. Sorry.
So what I'm hearing is I need to ask Lynchburg for contributions.
Correct. Danville.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, right? These are, and I'm stealing a line that I've heard the mayor say. because it starts talking about, well, folks that are coming here. And he said, does it really matter where they came from? They're here now, and they don't have a house, and should we help them get into a house? And I fundamentally believe the answer is yes.
Yes.
So, you gotta look at it, and it doesn't necessarily always have to be dollars. I mean, I think of Nelson County and their budget, and what just the school division piece alone has made. I mean, you guys raised your taxes.
Just to cover the schools.
And, if people don't think that drives a Nelson County supervisor out of their mind, but they see that they need to do it. So to ask for additional funding for something from a county that might have overall a smaller type of budget
Sure.
to be able to provide actual cash dollars. But you could also say, well, what could you do within your county to help in the piece of the system that could be helpful? Because there's other ways to contribute than just providing cash.
Right.
Go ahead. Comments are coming in quickly here.
Ready.
If I could go to the panel here. This is from Hank Martin, and he says this is for Mike and Ned with 22 or 23 million. He calls it siphoned out of Albemarle County. I'll just use the terms revenue sharing agreement. With 22 or 23 million and revenue sharing agreement from Albemarle County to Charlottesville, he calls it a poorly negotiated agreement. I'll call it antiquated and maybe dated. It's a 1982 agreement, I believe. He says the question many taxpayers are asking is basic. What can we do to potentially cap that agreement? He says, if Albemarle County families keep paying more, why do we keep hearing about homelessness, the encampment, the crisis? And he submits this inquiry not in anger or selflessness, but rather as basic accountability. He's lived in the community all his life, is what he's asking.
We talked about this a little bit when I was on your show recently. I'll kind of restate what I said then, which is I think this is a scenario where we need to, much like our relationship with the university, we have relatively little leverage. So what we need to do is catch more flies with honey than with vinegar. Which, can I just add, I hate that idiom. Because if you've ever tried to catch flies, vinegar actually works really well. But setting that aside, pretending the idiom makes sense, I think building goodwill, collaborating on shared priorities like homelessness with the city, showing that we are willing to play ball, that we are a good community partner, that we share values. And by the way, you're really hurting our tax revenue profile. It's going to become untenable because, frankly, not only is our economy bigger than yours, but our economy is growing faster than yours, right? We're setting ourselves on a track where in 2050, we're going to be a quarter of the city's budget. I think we can all agree that that's untenable. So I think building that quality relationship, having the level of dialogue and discourse that we have with City Council right now, which is I have a much more limited experience just years-wise than my peers on the board, but it is better than it's been in a very long time. I think continuing to build that relationship and asking the city, hey, I don't think this is tenable long term. Would you be amenable to amending the agreement to institute a cap? I think is something that is realistic, achievable, and in the future.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because, you can say anything you want about any decision, I suppose. But at the time, if the moratorium on annexation didn't happen, I mean, we know what would have happened. I probably wouldn't be representing the district I'm representing. Most of it would be in the city's boundaries. I mean, that's what the reality would have been, that they were negotiating under that context. So,
which protected our own tax base.
And
right?
the voters voted for it.
Yeah.
So, that's what happened in both jurisdictions.
Just FYI, Nelson County is going to go take Scottsville, and we'll invite you guys to a bargaining table.
And have a revenue sharing agreement
and
with
you
Nelson
guys
County.
can stroke us some checks, Some parts of Afton.
And then we're going to turn around and do the same. We're going to knock on Louisa's door and ask them.
No, that's our pathways. We're going to go Scottsville through
Louisa's in the capital.
following
A very
64.
narrow road.
We're going to
specifically
we're not
gerrymandered
going to
My boy Fitzgerald Barnes, who I've known for like 25 years, he's a friend.
Yeah.
He is in the catbird seat. Zion's Crossroads with
wow.
Interstate 64,
Yeah.
Walmart and Lowe's. They are crushing it. Comments continue to come in here. Jesse. We love Nelson County. It's
I'm
God's
ready.
country. I was just at Brewing Tree.
Wow.
My wife and I are two boys. They were splashing in the river.
Oh, yeah.
I will say this: a lot of the questions that are coming in are for Albemarle County.
That's okay. All good.
I would just throw that out
I
there.
understand that.
This Olivia Branch is watching the program. The Queen of Keswick. She's watching the show. You have every media outlet locally watching you here. As Albemarle County's economy becomes more, vivacious and strong and momentum driven, which it is. Emily Kilroy, again, I salute her for doing a fantastic job. The real estate values are going to go up. And as the real estate values go up, commercial and residential, that revenue sharing agreement and the allocation is going to be much more significant to Charlottesville. It seemed to me there's got to be some kind of like management strategy or how, especially with AstraZeneca coming online.
Oh, yeah.
Like what?
Well, AMI just went up. I mean, we went from, what was it, 125
We just
to
published that.
139.
Why this is not out in the news cycle?
I mean,
It's shocking to
it's
me.
a huge deal what AMI just jumped to because that impacts everything from FHA loans to Section 8 vouchers, permanent supportive housing. And,
139,800. You
Yeah.
had a 12% year-over-year jump from 2025.
And so if you were to look at how that impacts just the federal, government lending as well as the voucher world, it's going to change a lot. That's 12% jump.
Yeah.
12% of $2,000 is still $200.
Because the total dollars that this is going to get real nerdy for everyone at home. I'm so sorry.
You use a lot of big words. Did you know that?
It's like he's a lawyer.
It's like,
I've
I'm
been
over
a
here
lawyer.
hearing words, and I'm like, golly, man, I had to. You
Yeah,
get waved
Uncle
down
Sam
some
sent
other-
this redneck to too many schools, and now I don't even sound like where I'm from.
I would never have guessed that. But now memory serves. You are from a rural area, right?
Where are you?
Yeah.
I'm from rural South Carolina.
But you're super
hills.
That's a
educated.
place, rural South Carolina. I'm just kidding, like a town.
I would never. I completely forgot that you were from rural South Carolina.
I've never heard the term rural until I left West Virginia.
Right?
Some
Yeah,
places
we
it's
didn't
the
describe
standard.
ourselves as rural South.
Rural was a very hard word for my growing up folks to say.
Now you're like a UVA lawyer, which you are. But I forgot that you were from the South.
Yep, I forget the point I was going to make because I got
No, you were nerdy AMI.
Oh yeah. No, so the total number of dollars that the feds are giving us in our local housing offices for housing choice vouchers, Section 8, what a lot of people here
Permanent
know it
supportive
as.
housing.
Well, permanent supportive housing is zeroed out straight up.
PSH.
I mean, in our budget,
I see.
we're fully
Understood.
assuming the cost of permanent supportive housing because it's been zeroed out. Someone at home correct me if I'm wrong, but the total dollars for HCVs is staying fixed, but the AMI is going up, which
Right.
means the value of a
Value
given
of the-
voucher is going
going
up,
up.
which means the total number of people, it's going to be easier for the people who are lucky enough to get a voucher to find a home, but the total number of people we're going to be able to serve with it is going to plummet because each of those vouchers has got to become more valuable. So there's going to be, I don't know how many it's going to be, but like a handful, a dozen, 2 dozen, 100, probably not 100, but there are going to be fewer people we can house because of that.
Yeah, and if you don't have a voucher, and I've shared some data with folks here today, but if you earn,
We should talk about it.
if you earn $15 an hour, you can't live in an apartment in our county, or at least in my district. I only did my district without subsidy, and you can't even come close at $15 an hour.
$15 an hour is roughly $32,000 a year.
And if you were at, like I did Rio Point, which is a luxury place, for a studio apartment, the rent's $19.33. If you earn $15 an hour, the rent burden on you for a studio is 74%. So that's untenable. If it jumps to $25 an hour, now that rent burden for that same studio is 44%, and that is rent burden. 35% is about, when we talk about this
It's
in
supposed to
the
be
report,
30%.
it's supposed to be at 30%.
Yeah, but that's also taking into consider any debt payments that you might have throughout the month, i.e., a car payment, credit card payment,
Well,
whatever.
and this doesn't include
no, it doesn't include that.
utilities. It doesn't include your food bill or medical or any of that. I just said, well, let me just look at what you earn. This is gross earnings. So your this is before your taxes and your deductions are out there. But my point is that the subsidy that's needed. Sometimes folks, when we hear affordable housing and we're trying to set up an affordable housing investment fund and get more and more dollars in there, think that's going to somebody that's maybe half employed or not employed. $25 an hour is about the average wage, I believe. And you can't live in Albemarle at $25 an hour without needing a roommate or a second income to be able to get into a studio apartment.
Right.
So, when we talk about AstraZeneca, the county has had a lot of reasons for why we purchased the land. We've got a good base hit already with AstraZeneca, but really all AstraZeneca does is shift a little bit us from we don't have to ask for a tax increase.
Right.
Because now that'll kind of offset it. It's probably going to take a third or fourth project like an AstraZeneca in the county to start getting the revenue where you could start doing either more of the things you want to do or try to offset more of your own taxes. But a $125,000 starting salary is still below.
Yeah.
I mean, what the single family or the single person median income's not 139. That's a household.
That's
income.
household income.
But still, to the point, if you have employers coming in that start paying that kind of wage, hopefully that starts to bring in other type of like employers, and you can start hopefully get people employed where they're earning more than $25 an hour. That's also a way to try to get at affordability so that people can get into what.
Well
the
said,
market's
well said.
at.
So what he's saying is 125,000 is the starting salary for AstraZeneca, 600 employees. You taught me that. You educated me on that.
Yeah.
The 125K for the starting salary, the likelihood for those at 125K with having a partner that's also working to raise it above the 139 area median income is probably high. So that would put them above median income.
Right.
So in Rio Point, if you earn $115,000 a year and you want a 3-bedroom, or forget the 3-bedroom, if you want a 2-bedroom apartment at Rio Point and you earn $115,000 a year, your rent burden is still 59%.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
I mean, I think Albemarle and Nelson County has to ask the same questions of itself. I mean, what percentage of your workforce is driving from outside of Albemarle to work Albemarle jobs? I don't know if you guys have that readily.
I think we're actually working on some of that. I don't know if it'll be
The
broken
housing,
down by the region
the housing
like
study
Nelson,
will have that.
but there's data that you can start to see that talks about what the incoming population is and where it's coming from.
So I remember the last housing study we did, it was for every 3 jobs Nelson County had, 2 people drove from outside of Nelson County
do
to
it.
work a Nelson County job. And we're seeing that. We're seeing that happen on so many. We're seeing 2 things happen. One, those lower end jobs are disappearing.
Yep.
One, whether that's innovation, AI, or just, changing
Headwinds
business
for
strategy.
hospitality and food and beverage.
What's that?
Or headwinds for hospitality and food and beverage.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then the second we're seeing is that, I don't know, it's like the income disparities are doing this. You either making a ton of money or that lower end just became part-time. It's not even full-time. We're starting to see that even in grocery stores and all that.
Which is a reflection of being a resort community, wintergreen, second homes.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And so what happens is before you know it, those folks for them to participate in the housing in Nelson, it is, what I do.
No, I think he's just saying when you're hitting the mic here.
Oh,
You
did I-
go ahead and do it again, Judy. Go ahead.
Sorry. It is remarkably difficult, so.
I'm pounding the table as well.
Hitting the table.
I like it. He's passionate. He's passionate right there.
Take 3, Judah
there-
adjusting Jesse's mic. What are you doing over there?
Back slapping it a little bit. It's
Just hitting
okay. It's okay. It's all right. It's sensitive mic. Sensitive mic.
I'm a sensitive guy.
The questions are continuing to come in here, and we'll highlight the viewers and listeners that are watching. You have on your page quite a bit. Michelle Mayer, Ginger Berg, Paul Quenneville, Caitlin Campbell, Thomas Jordan Miles, who was a Buckingham supervisor, is giving props to everybody. He was a former board chairman. He's watching the program right now. I'll throw this to you guys. This is an interesting comment, one that came up in pre-production. With the challenges that the city's going through with luxury apartment housing, how does Albemarle County watch from afar how with luxury apartment housing and how it could impact affordability in Albemarle? I'll add a little bit of color to that. The Mark in Fifeville, as we talked about, is $2,000 a month, probably apartment that's coming to a historically marginalized community. The cost of goods, materials, labor, the cost of debt service now has made any kind of construction. Jesse can talk about this.
Yeah.
It's so expensive.
It's hard.
Yeah.
And if you're trying to the only national home builder out there that's hitting in that 400s, high 300s, I guess, is like Greenwood and Ryan Holmes.
Yeah, Ryan, Greenwood, Stanley's doing
Stanley,
some of that.
Like, and
yeah.
it's hard.
And they have economies of scale.
Yes.
So if someone was going to
Yeah.
bring housing stock to market in Albemarle County, it would almost have to be
Yeah.
in this 2,000 plus threshold.
So, yeah, let's engage with this. This is a thing I say all the time. The cost difference, and this is kind of what you were getting at, the cost difference between building luxury and building affordable does not exist.
Right.
They're,
same
surprise, y'all, they're both made of wood at the end of the day.
Framing's the same, the plumbing's the same.
It's the same
I don't
labor.
pay double
It's the same
for a
labor.
luxury
Same
home
drywall.
builder.
Yep.
Like, they're still hiring the same guys.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that means a new build is always going to be targeting the highest income bracket it can, unless it is being bought down through a subsidy requirement.
Right.
That is what the Housing Trust Fund exists for. There is still an argument, and I think some people overstate this argument, but there's still a real argument that you are having broadly positive effects on the cost of housing by building luxury homes, new homes, because it creates a trickle-down effect. It creates knock-on effects
you a
throughout the housing
trickle-down?
market in that it makes it so that other things that used to be luxury are retiring and aging, and it creates different levels in the income ladder. And there's also the very real concern, right? Like, this is something I bring up a lot in our lack of, we have a real dearth of detached single-family homes right now, which really compresses that side of the market and causes negative externalities in other parts of the market. We have because we don't have any available sub-$1 million single-family homes, it means that attached homes are now going for over $500,000.
Right.
And because attached homes are going for over $500,000, condos are going for over 400. Because condos are going for over 400, we've got these rents that Ned was talking about. So that's kind of part of the argument of, you still are benefiting the guy at the bottom of the income ladder by building at the top of the income ladder.
I
That
agree
being
with
said, I think that's overstated by some advocates.
And then our land use policy, I mean, we are, the way we've set it up, and this is not trying to open up a can of worms about development area versus rural area, but it's shown nationally that when you have that kind of contained limitation, that then also hits the supply-demand model that does exactly what you just described would happen. Because you're limited, and now single-family detached really, the only way single-family detached right now can exist in our development area is if you have a plot of property and you just go with the by right, and it's already zoned R2 or R4. Otherwise, if it came before our board, we'd actually be chastising you for bringing an R4 development to us if it was inside the development area.
Custom builds are the only single family
Which then
ones.
means that you can only get a single family detached out in the other 95% of the county. And because of the nature of the market and the lot sizes that need to happen out there, you're not building $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 homes out there if you're building new. And the ones that are reselling, frankly, aren't going for that either.
No. And that problem, y'all's, I'm just gonna say it's all y'all's fault. All right, it makes it easier for me. But by virtue of that, people come to Nelson, buy the historically $250,000 house on 5 acres with a beautiful view, and they're like, "Ooh, I'll pay cash, $350, close in 2 weeks."
Which then gentrifies OG Nelson out of Nelson.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and I think it's important that from a regional perspective, housing is also, obviously, you mentioned
Right.
homelessness. You can't talk about housing without addressing it regionally. Because the AstraZeneca employee is going to be willing to live in Greene, Louisa, Fluvanna, and would really like to live in Nelson if he can.
With the
Doesn't
broadband.
want
With
to
all that
drive
great
from
internet.
He actually said that very straight-faced over there. I was like, Jesse, what? Okay. I think that AstraZeneca employee is going to live, yes, to Green, very much Ivy in Western Albemarle because of the schools, and then I'll go Rio District, Scottsville District, Jack Jewett District.
Oh, dude.
Unless you're also
There-
proposing a high-speed rail from
Well, I thought that was what you guys they proffered, right?
Well, I know that Mike and I had a good exchange a few weeks ago, and not an exchange, more so as a conversation when we were doing our AC 44 and the staff brought together our work projects. And I kind of got on my soapbox a little bit about how housing equals economic development.
It does.
And you can't have two different silos. You can't deal with housing and economic development development different.
Correct.
And housing's probably more important to your economic development strategies than anything else. And we need to start thinking about that and do a better job of that.
I told you.
In our housing policy, the point was get that sucker wrapped in there when we're dealing with all those work projects in the AC 44 because it drives it all.
Would Jeff Richardson's metric of each incremental unit of housing is about $1.32 of strain on the budget?
You mean Chris Fairchild? No.
Not also Chris Fairchild utilizes that. Doesn't that speak, potentially against that argument there?
Against that argument?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you want the housing to be there to drive it. That piece is just saying that unless you bring the commercial and offset the balance, that the tax burden is higher on the residential.
Right.
So that's his main point. But what that stat does, what I've been thinking about more recently, the outside stuff that comes in, the people that don't live here, like when you think of that $1.32, that actually incorporates and puts all those stats on the from heres, to use Chris
Right.
Fairchild,
Yeah.
and doesn't account for the services needed by the come heres, daily come heres.
Sure.
So if you come in here for a weekend, a graduation weekend at UVA, the vast expanse of people that come in means that all of our counties, including the surrounding regions, have an uptick in the services that you have to provide just from the sheer fact that there are more people here.
Yeah.
So when you factor in the cost for Albemarle County Police Department, let's say, for a weekend like that, that is getting absorbed into that $1.32 number. And we are a community that has a huge inbound population, daytime, nighttime, all around. I mean, we've been talking about
Right.
that for a long time. So I would love the data, the researcher, the folks that got the brain like Pruitt has, and go, all right, tease that out. Like,
Yeah.
what's that all about?
I mean,
He called you a really smart guy there.
we've
I'll take
done
it.
that. We've called you smart a bunch today. I mean, it's the pregnant chicken theory, right?
The pregnant chicken
the
theory,
pregnant
which
chicken
comes
theory,
first.
which comes first. And when it comes to economic development or housing, it's both.
That's right.
I'll throw this to you guys at the 11:15 marker, and we have a Ned. If you're wondering what that is, a window washer outside. He every subcontractor.
She's a guy trying to get
Let's
in.
say that is the tallest protest I've ever seen.
Every subcontractor that I seem to be working with in 2026 is out of budget and not on time, but such is life. That's
how it goes.
I'll throw this to you guys, and this is an interesting comment that's come in the feed. How does the Thomas Jefferson District Planning Commission work as a unit to try to ask UVA to do more than what they're doing in Central Virginia?
Well, the Planning District Commission historically is a defined piece from the governments above us. That you should have a planning district commission that's there. And the university and some of the umbrella organizations that exist underneath the commission level, they serve on in a liaison non-voting capacity.
Right.
So it would be left just like anything else. How we work in the city and the county, and we work in partnership and tandem with UVA, and we have coordinating meetings through LUPEC and trying to make sure we're all on the same page with planning efforts. Like UVA is going to be part of the chamber to chamber group that's coming up, that's going to go visit Chapel Hill. The city, the county's involved, local business folks, and UVA. So it's really about building and nurturing that relationship in similar fashion that Mike was speaking to when we were talking earlier about the revenue sharing and with the city. Because otherwise you don't have leverage other than the relationships you build and what you do in tandem with them.
Right.
Ned alluded to this, but the TJPDC, the commission, houses a lot of other organizations that would not really have an easy way of forming or
Right.
convening but for the existence of the commission. And one of the big ones for that is what had been the Regional Transit Partnership. That has since been sunsetted, and we've formally created the Regional Transit Authority that actually will have real power moving forward. And currently, the university and the university transit system are participants in that kind of roundtable. And that is, in my opinion, I say this all the time because I found that my superpower by being a person on the board is by saying something over and over until people start saying, oh, I keep hearing about such and such. And then it starts to become policy.
Right.
But
strategy.
my vision, my optimistic vision, is that the university becomes a really key piece of a unified regional transit system. And the only way to do that is to have if you want someone to join you at the table, you have to freaking have a table.
Yeah.
The commission gives us that table,
Correct.
and it then helps us invite them to sit at the table with us.
Yeah.
A couple more questions for you from Philip Reese, who's the chair of the Albemarle County Republican Committee. Question for Mike and Ned. Explain why subsidizing an affordable housing unit reduces countywide rents more effectively than simply adding an equivalent market rate unit to the housing supply.
Ask it again. I got to listen to it. Philip always asks good questions.
Yeah,
so
he says, I'll try. Explain why subsidizing an affordable housing unit reduces rents in Albemarle County as opposed to, better reduces rents, as opposed to just adding more equivalent market rate units to the supply.
So maybe like why like supply demand's not taking care of it.
Yeah.
Looks like Mike's-
I want to begin by saying I like Phil. I appreciate him. We disagree on parts of this issue. And here, the first thing that leaps off to me about that question is it creates a false choice, right? I don't have to not create units because I'm subsidizing units. We're going to do both, right? They both are tools for reducing rents for that individuals experience, and we're using both. I alluded to this, but like I don't fully subscribe to a strong form of a supply argument for housing. I think it is a tool. It will reduce rents. It is an important tool to control rents by improving our supply.
Sure.
It's not going to help the person who's making $15 an hour.
No.
That's just the truth.
Or
I
25.
can
Anywhere.
turn the entire Albemarle County into the development area, and the person who's making $15 an hour is still going to struggle.
never be able to.
But if we have some kind of subsidy that is specifically designed to open up and unlock housing opportunities for that guy. On the last time I was on here with you, I made the argument, and you disagreed with me rather than Phil then, about kind of the marginal value. Oh, you're going to tax your own people to provide benefits to your own people. And I think we just have to look at what the scope of that benefit and the scope of that burden
cost,
is,
yeah.
right? Like the property tax increase that we proposed would have been maybe $1 or $2 per month for your really low income folks. If they own a car, if they own a valuable car, but it would have been hundreds, maybe even thousands of dollars in savings on their rent burden every single month. Right.
Yeah.
And that disparity is really massive, which is why I continue to support that.
I think the place in the system, if we think of the system of housing that we talked about earlier, and Keith and Jerry have talked about this in terms of the first-time home buyer and what starter homes and all that, but when people talk about the missing middle, we don't have that chunk in Albemarle. There's no, like for the person you think that maybe, since starter homes aren't there and maybe they can't afford to be in a 2-bedroom apartment, now they want to move into the next stage if you think of going up the housing ladder, and now they want to do their first home purchase. Well, in Albemarle, the first-time person, if their total household income's between 120 and 150, what's available to them? I mean, that's a stretch to get into. Like in on Carsbrook Drive, there's a home that just went up 2,200 square feet, and it's listed for $700,000. That's not a starter.
Is that where you
home.
live?
I'm in that area.
In that
right
area?
now,
Okay.
yeah. But and some of the homes over there in that $500,000 to $700,000 range, and I mean that could be a stretch. You got to do some creative financing to get into that, and probably have a significant a bit of money down. So you could potentially, and I don't know how to subsidize that either. So we don't have, we're not helping through subsidy to get that's what zoning tries to help us do.
Can I disagree?
Disagree? Yeah, please.
Well, no, this is because we don't disagree on many things on housing. We are pretty aligned on this. There are other things that we're less aligned on, but on housing, we're pretty lockstep. I want to disagree with the idea that we struggle with missing middle specifically. I actually almost want to suggest it's the opposite problem, kind of to the point I was making previously. When I hear missing middle, I'm thinking of a housing type. Right, I'm thinking
townhome.
I'm thinking townhomes, and even like triplexes, quadplexes, and like owner-occupied quadplexes, where you sell them as condos. Really common in like Shirlington, in Arlington, and Alexandria. We have so much of those. It's actually all we build now. I think we actually have an oversaturated middle, but that genre of housing is actually not what a lot of our residents want and need, right? Like we just talked about it. What's
From a
our
home
AMI?
ownership
What's our
standpoint.
AMI? Our AMI is like 130, which means half of people are making more than that.
Nearly
right?
140, yeah.
Those people want a single-family detached home.
Yeah, that's the
And
American
people who
dream
are
still.
struggling want a place that they can afford rents below what's on this sheet.
Yeah.
And those are the two genres of housing we don't have.
And I don't know that we disagree. I just think that the pricing is what I'm thinking
Sure.
of in the middle missing. Where in Albemarle County can you buy a home that is a single-family detached home that's under $500,000?
Scottsville.
Esmont, Scottsville, yeah, Esmont, Scottsville.
There's some double
yeah.
wides down there for sale right now. Yeah.
I mean, but really, to Ned's point, there's not many places. That's
Well,
what you're saying.
And if you look at the context of what
Keene-
those were
Keene
10 or
is a
15
spot?
years ago,
Sure.
sure.
Oh, they've doubled the price.
That's yeah. In some cases,
Sorry,
tripled.
I wasn't trying to be
I don't think we
combative.
know. I don't think you were, and I don't think we supervisors, and Jesse would probably the same about his board members, unless you do something like this,
Mm-hmm.
or you go to a commission and you have chats before or after the meeting, it's hard to have discussions like
It
this.
is.
It's not like we just gather around to have these, and it's
No.
hard to discuss this type of thing
Right.
at the dais.
I mean, I think just to compound that housing piece on what you're talking about, the missing middle, I mean, overall, the housing shortage is so astronomical and so complicated because now you're also dealing with that inflation issue. The $15 an hour guy job is not going to $30 an hour in the next 10 years. So to the point of subsidizing rents, I mean, every year that goes by, I'm a land trust guy because I can't imagine
Yeah.
how
else to do it?
the future is going to be. And now that we're getting compounded with AI, and
The only alternative option to the land trust that I see is viable is buying
Land.
buying actual like apartment complexes that are existing.
Yeah.
Like Cap Crossing, Mallside,
Doing a
buying
light-
ones that are
light tech,
existing
yeah.
so you do not have to build from scratch, which
Right.
makes it
Are
not
we
feasible.
convincing libertarian Jerry Miller into believing in government-owned and operated public housing?
Well, that very much fits a
model that-
libertarian's mindset.
Yeah.
Because that's prudence with taxpayer resources.
Yeah.
Because you're going to spend it anyway.
yeah.
How much
You're
are
even-
the small homes you're building down in Nelson? What do you mark? What do those go for?
Yes, I'm a little bit different because of
You're a landlord.
One conviction. Well, he's new construction. He's
Okay,
talking.
okay.
So one, it's conviction. Two, I have no overhead. So I'm able to build a 960 square foot. I took a very company town floor plan and said, okay, Virginia was built around this kind of house. It's not huge. You can have a couple kids and live in it. I can build a 3-bed, 2-bath house and sell it for about $250.
Is it modular?
No, site built.
Okay.
So I'm doing all conventional construction on that one.
Because I've been looking, when you post some new
Yeah.
ones and it shows the floor plan and all that,
Yeah.
like going in, it seems to be single level.
Single level. The model is first time home buyer, and it has been every sale has usually been young couple.
How much dirt?
Acre,
That's
if I can,
legit.
that's not bad, if
Yeah.
you get it, but it's really gotten the first time home buyer market, and a lot of folks who are retiring and want to downsize. It's giving them that option. Like,
If that's happening in Scottsville, I don't know that it is.
I'm not doing it
Because
in
that-
Scottsdale.
thinking of-
But I'm saying that that's the type of thing. It's like if
That's
you're
what we need.
here
Yeah.
and you got into a situation, might be different square footage and all that, but the economics were the same maybe
Sure.
20, 30 years ago. The tax burden on you now is becoming more and more problematic.
Oh, yes.
But the person coming in to buy that, that's the payoff for the
Right.
person that owns it now.
Yep.
But if you wanted to come in and try to do that kind of build,
Yeah.
I don't know how it. I
The
don't know
equivalent
that
of
it can
that price
happen.
point in Albemarle County is the 3-bedroom, 2-bath with a den at the Villas at Southern Ridge in the Scottsville district down 5th Street Extended, a condo.
A condo.
Yeah.
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 And then you're going to
And
have a
even in the
$250
Rio
HOA
district,
fee a month.
the condos were going for 300,
Oh my
400,000. And
And the problem is for me to be able to take that model and bring it to Albemarle is
You
land.
can't.
I can't.
You can't do it.
It's just not going to
The
happen.
dirt's too
As
expensive.
soon as I have to touch dirt, even with me having no overhead.
Yeah, the dirt's too expensive.
Yeah.
I'm hearing those prices, and this is like a recurring, it's a multi-season storyline that
Yeah.
I feel like folks on the board have been following. I've been trying to move my dad up here for like the past 2 or
From
3
South
years.
Carolina?
Yeah, he can't
Okay.
afford any place. He's retired. He's recently retired, forcibly retired because of a corporate consolidation. Talk about monopoly.
You got an extra bedroom in your house, don't you?
Yeah, but I need that for when I need an extra bedroom in my house.
that's where all the stuff is.
I'm trying to stand up for you there,
Hey,
Mr.
I'll
Pruitt.
sell your dad a house in Nelson County.
I think the payoff for a
the
house, I think the payoff for a house like that in Nelson, if it gets to a certain scope or a certain level or a certain volume, is your declining student enrollment
Yeah,
population.
yeah.
Because if you don't provide that kind of housing, then the young family has to live somewhere else.
Right. Yeah.
And-
And young families in Nelson are living in Amherst, in Appomattox, and Buckingham.
Yeah.
That is obviously that was something we used to say. It was always cheaper to go there. It is now the necessity. If you want to own a house, you have to live
Do
in
you
that
sell
place.
that house no problem at all?
Like it's 5 days.
Yeah.
2.5
You
days.
crush it with that.
Yeah. And
Sure.
I'm a complete it and then sell it guy. I don't do a pre-sale or anything. So, yeah.
That's awesome. All right, how about it's 11:30? Maybe some closing thoughts.
Oh, let's talk about the referendum real quick.
Okay, we can do that.
He's been itching.
I'm going to start.
Yeah.
Oh, the redistricting.
The redistricting referendum. I just want to say I appreciate the Virginia Supreme Court and
4-3.
4-3 on that one. I understand it's contentious thought. But going to the beginning part of this, I want to make sure this is very clear to my constituents and those around. Trump was wrong for forcing redistricting around in his myriad of states. It's wrong there. It's wrong when Virginia does it, and it will always be wrong. And I think it's important that people hear this pure opinion on this, because there's a lot of folks who look at their local governments and have this partisan assumption that they're a political hack for the left or a political hack for the right. And no, a lot of us are not. And a lot of us do think critically, and we do know when wrong is wrong and when right is right. Obviously, we're talking about housing, and we have a pretty much a similar mindset on there with some nuances, which you're going to find in everything in life. But I want to just say that I am grateful for the Virginia Supreme Court. I understand they're going to appeal it to the SCOTUS. Whether they'll be successful or not, I don't know. But for me, it's a great day to be a Virginian.
So I will add on this a little bit. And as the public knows, I have some personal heartache around redistricting. I will also say, I voted yes. So just every Democrat listening, before you crucify me for what I'm about to say.
And what he means by this is he would have made a fantastic congressman, but he had his hat in the ring to be a congressman. That's what he's saying.
I will say, though, the thing that frustrates me, and this is going to be a little bit of a longer point, so I apologize in advance. Everything in politics is winning and then spending political capital.
Oh, yeah.
Right? You win political capital by inspiring people,
And then you
by delivering on things, by and by winning elections, because that does both. And you spend political capital on whatever you want. I believe you should be spending political capital in a way that improves the lot of people. And the thing that frustrates me so much about, I would say, the last 6 months of Virginia politics is watching Democrats, my party, bank and win so much political capital.
You want
by
everything.
being so inspirational, by running against such a bad statewide slate on the other side.
Not going to disagree with that.
And
Not gonna
winning so much political capital and then deciding to spend all of our political capital on a referendum that is pissing off most of the 5th district. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know what your rules on language
Pissing
are
off half of Virginia.
Yeah.
Half of Virginia.
To win, I needed to not just win Nelson County, I needed to win Nelson County decisively.
100%.
Right? That's like one of several bellwethers I would look at. I needed to win Nelson County by at least 60.
Right.
No won Nelson County by over 60, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yep.
Right? And that just speaks to how we've spent that political capital. And what we haven't spent political capital on is labor.
Yeah.
We have avoided and banked political capital on labor. We just saw a veto to the unanimously by the Democratic caucus supported
collective bargaining.
Collective
Oh,
bargaining
yeah.
And then
referendum.
Spamberger.
And that is where
It's coming
we
back
should
next
be
year, though.
spending political capital. We should be spending political capital on workers. We should be spending political capital on helping make rural Virginia more affordable. We should be spending capital on Virginians rather than on winning what I thought was a fairly short-term political win at the national level. And I'm so deeply frustrated to see how we've burned down that political capital
So well
and
said.
spent it.
So, especially at a time where Democrats had such favor because of the mismanagement from the White House and Trump.
Yes.
Northern Virginia and across the Commonwealth.
Yep.
And so much of that favor was burned with this referendum and how it was managed.
And on top of that, it's like Spamberger ran, in my opinion, as this centrist person.
100%.
And I kind of went into, obviously I did not vote for Spamberger, But I would look at a Spangenberger and be like, but she's good on housing. There's some things there that there's some pieces that I could look at and have some.
I will say I think Spanberger is a remarkably consistent and true to herself candidate.
See, I would respectfully disagree with you and say it's one of the most disingenuous 4.5 months to start of any term I've ever seen.
And that's
So how do you feel about that?
I
Would
mean,
you agree
I
with
think
that?
we've seen Spanberger be uncomfortable with redistricting. It was not her play.
I know that, but then she
put on
should have
her.
put her foot down.
Right.
Okay, part of the things that we have to do as local officials, because we have to walk through the gauntlet of the public, we have to go interact with them every day at the gas station, at school functions. You know, at some point, you have to look at your respective establishment and say, no, we don't do that here. Obviously, Indiana is a great example of a state that said, no, we're not gerrymandering. And there are obviously some political repercussions there and some political theory that we could go through. We're not going to go
I do
into
think
that.
there's something interesting about what you're saying, which is the amount of ownership that you have in politics, because I think it's something that people look past a lot, right?
Yeah.
Like, Governor Spanberger has a tremendous amount of ownership over things, and we actually, more than your average, like, higher legislator, right? We have much more ownership over issues than a congressman, right? I am a sixth of the entire decision-making
Yes.
apparatus.
Oh, absolutely.
And people can also track me down in the grocery store. That's a tremendous amount
Daily.
of ownership
Daily.
based on everything I say, whereas any given congressman can hide behind
Yes.
their 400 best friends.
Yes.
And so there is the element of, yes, the governor has a tremendous amount, like, stuff actually weighs on her. There's no buck to pass to her when she wants to, when she has concerns about collective bargaining, for example. But I found her rationale that she provided for her veto to be a non-rationale. It infuriated me. I stand infuriated.
She's in political capital damage mitigation right now. Like,
Understatement.
like,
Understatement.
and she's trying. And here's the thing: the rest of us are going to look at the collective bargaining piece. I know it's coming back up next year,
For sure.
and it will respectively pass because there will be a myriad of Democrat leadership chamber conversations, threats, and whatever related to like future races and all this, and then it's going to pass. You know, that's always sometimes some of the political flavor, but Virginia is in such a strange position, and my family goes back hundreds of years to Virginia. I know Ned's the only other close, almost Virginia. He's from West Virginia. And the Virginia way is a very important piece of how we are supposed to govern. What we're doing today is the Virginia way. Our ability to have discussion, to have serious disagreements and then get along. But seeing this national political headline thing try to hit into the state legislator and then watch it start hitting into local, I'm really proud of how Virginia was. I understand that the no vote lost on election day. Yes, I recognize rural Virginia will always lose to a 2 million person
To Northern Virginia.
county.
Yeah.
That's math. I
Right.
get it. I have to honor that. I respect that.
Then the checks and balances prevail.
And then the law happens, and it's,
Barely.
and then don't worry, they're going to change the Supreme Court in January because there'll be a reappointment, and then that'll change the balance.
Yeah.
So guess what? And then they could do what they want, and then see what happens.
Well, the thing I'll add, just to kind of take it up a notch on top of what, like, when we sit here at the local level and we talk
Yeah.
about, look, this is it. We've got two extremes in terms of political philosophy sitting at the table, right?
There's some news articles out there on me.
And we say we can disagree, but we
Yeah.
can still get along. But
Yeah.
but the thing I think that I love about local politics is what can I find that I agree on
Yeah.
with somebody that's on the other side of the aisle that partisan warfare never allows to happen.
No.
So knowing, and I'll use Jesse as the example. I guess, and this won't help maybe my own political party folks, but I have to say that knowing Jesse and listening to him talk to other people and the fact that we get along well and can have a discussion has illuminated that I'm more in favor of property rights than I've
Okay.
ever
We didn't even talk about that
realized.
today. Yeah.
So that's something that if you're just constantly in that partisan mindset, you don't even care what the issue is if it's somebody on the other side. But local politicians really can't deal with that because, you know what, impacts from a new rezoning going up is not an R or a D issue.
No.
It's an impact issue.
You guys are all approachable and likable, and
Oh, thanks, Jerry.
sincerely mean that. You guys are, the communities are lucky to have you. I mean, I sincerely mean that. Gotten a chance to know you guys through here. It's great. It's really, really, really do mean that. He is Ned Gallaway. He is a 3-term supervisor, and his district is the Rio district. Good person. Mike Pruitt, his district, the Scottsville district, great person. 1-term supervisor. Would have made a hell of a congressman. Would have made a hell of a I mean that. Would have made a hell of a state senator. I sincerely mean that too.
Mike's still young, and I've
I
had
get
a
that.
hard time. But that's one thing I've learned. I used to have that ambition, but the partisan
It's all
nature
timing
of
and
it,
luck.
the
There's so
partisan
much luck.
warfare, I had more fire for that when I was 25 and 30 than I do now.
Totally get it. Jesse Rutherford, 3-term
He's trying to close this out. I got a tiny bladder.
3-term supervisor. This guy will make a great state senator.
I don't want to. I'm okay.
If he wanted to.
Yeah.
Great guys. Judah Whitcower, I'm Jerry Miller. It's Real Talk with Keith Smith. And we appreciate you guys watching the
Thanks for
program.
having us.
So long,
Thank you
everybody.
so
Thank
much.
you.
I
I wasn't joking. I need to
Turn
jump
the
again.
cameras off.